Hi everyone, I'm Walnut and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC video. Today we're using a team that I revealed at the end of my last video that features Dragapult and Chien-Pao, a pair that Justin Tang used on his team that won the recent Fort Wayne Regional, and other powerful Pokemon like Amoonguss, Flutter Mane, Gyarados, and Scizor. The idea for this team came from a battle I had on Ladder, and it has some interesting moves like Feint on Scizor and Substitute on Dragapult. If you want to skip to the battles, timestamps will be down below, as well as a rental code and Pokepaste if you want to try the team out yourself. And while you're down there, I would appreciate it if you left a like and subscribe to the channel. And leave a comment down below telling me which move you think should see some more use in VGC. I think Fissure should— no, I'm just kidding. My pick is Feint because if you do Break or Protect, it's very stylish, but now let's go over the team. So like I said, the idea for the team came from a battle I had in-game. Basically, my opponent had Dragapult out, they were going for subs, and I broke it. Then they brought in Gyarados and started Thunder Waving my Pokemon while substituting, so I was like, let me double the Pult, I don't want the sub up, and I could get full parried. But then when I doubled into it, they hit Phantom Force and my jaw hit the floor. Like, I just got goobed, but I thought it was pretty funny, so I had to try it out. The Dragapult I'm running is Life Orb with Dragon Darts, Phantom Force, Terra Steel, Terra Blast, and Substitute. In my last video, I mentioned how I don't like Intimidate, and with Clear Body, Dragapult is able to ignore stat drops. Phantom Force is an awkward move since it is a 2-turn move and gives your opponent a chance to react, maybe like switch to Ting Lu or something, but it also breaks protects, which is pretty cool. I noticed one thing Justin Tang kinda did with Dragapult was if he was Phantom Forcing, he could protect the other slot to essentially negate any damage that turn, so I can also use that if I'm not in like a position to set up Thunder Waves. But the Gyarados is also Terra Steel since I want it to be very defensive. The moves are Waterfall, Taunt, Thunder Wave, and Helping Hand. Iron Head is another consideration for a fourth move, but Helping Hand Gyarados is just really funny because Gyarados has no hands, so what is he clapping? Fiona, who plays top 4 at Fort Wayne, had that on their set, but I have a different item here. I put Lefties on because that's what my opponent used in the ranked battle, though I think you could also run other items like Safety Goggles, Lumberry, Citrus Berry, but I have that on Amoonguss right now, but you could always just give Amoonguss a Pinch Berry. I also have Taunt to help me versus Amoonguss and Wo-Chien, and Waterfall is just a stab damage attack. This Gyarados is trained to be super bulky. The spread is just something I took from the Showdown Stat Index. I just kind of think about what kind of EVs do I want, and then I just take something from there that meets my needs. I thought about moving some points to speed to outspeed a paralyzed Dragapult, but I don't think my Gyarados really needs to do that, so I just left it as is. The Chien-Pao is the same from last video. I'm probably going to be using the same Chien-Pao set on almost every Chien-Pao, unless I need something more specific. The Flutter Mane is fairly simple with Terra Fairy and Specs, with Moonblast, Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, and Power Gem. This one is max special attack, max speed, though I think most Specs Flutter Mane are now running bulkier, slower spreads. I could also put a Booster Energy here, but I kind of think the Specs damage is just crazy. I have more defensive tools like Redirection on this team, so I think I can afford to go Specs. I just have to be a little bit careful about when I bring it or how I use it. The Amoonguss is fairly standard. I ran Protect for these battles, but I'll be switching to Clear Smog just because this team does not have the best answers into Dondozo, and I don't want to lose Sacred Sword for Haze on Chien-Pao. I didn't really run into too much Dondozo when testing on Showdown, so I thought I could get away with running Protect, but you'll see Dondozo in this episode. For the EV spread, since I have a Citrus Berry, I bumped it up from 219 to 220 HP, so if I get Ruinationed, then my berry will proc. I usually don't like Amoonguss, it's very sus, but I think Pollen Puff is a really cool move. Pollen Puff can go through ally substitutes, so if I need to, I can heal up my Dragapult when his HP goes down from like substitutes and Life Orb. I kind of imagine Amoonguss just offering Dragapult a hit of that Pollen Puff bar, then he just heals right up. Rage Powder can also help me set up subs a little bit better or give Flutter Mane a window to attack safely. This Scizor set is almost the same Scizor I ran in Series 2, but instead of Terra Blast I have Feint now. Feint is +2 priority and can be used to break through Protects, which is useful in some situations, but the +2 priority is also interesting since you can use it to break Talonflame's Gale Wings, and then I can use Flutter Mane to outspeed and knock it out, and deny my opponent Tailwind. It's basically baby extreme speed, but it goes through Protect, and people won't really see it coming. I have Assault Vest because I just like the special defense, and I think Terra Water Scizor with Assault Vest will probably do well into like Chi-Yu and Flutter Mane teams, since you can threaten the Flutter Mane with Bullet Punch and then take the fire moves if you Terra. U-Turn lets me slow pivot, and Close Combat will let me hit the Ruinous, Legends, and other Dark types and Steel types. I think the biggest thing I'm looking out for on this team is probably the Flutter Mane spread and item. I don't have another Paradox Pokemon, so I can put that booster energy on Flutter Mane if I want to, but I probably just have to find a spread and set that works for me. I think this team struggles a bit against steel types, like Goldengo is a bit hard to deal with, like Corviknight too. Like, I don't have a super effective move into those guys, so if those guys can get going or get into a good position, it's hard for me to stop them. Additionally, Gyarados and Amoonguss can struggle to deal damage sometimes. I'm running Helping Hand to boost my partner's damage, but that only works if I get the attack off. And Clear Smog is also interesting. I guess I can use it to clear my own debuffs. Another problem I have with the team is everyone is bluish except for Scizor. Like, if everything matched, it'd be kind of fire, but it's okay. Scizor can be a little bit different, like a libero or goalie with a different colored jersey. But yeah, that's going to be the team. I'll probably be using this for the International Challenge that's coming up. I don't expect to play super high, but I'll try to get some battles in, see how I like it. I think the battles are going to be a lot fiercer since this tournament actually will give you points, but it should be fun. I'll try to aim for the top 1000, but anyways, let's get into the battles. My first opponent is using Wo-Chien, Glimmora, Gyarados, Chi-Yu, Iron Bundle, and Goldengo. So the first three on their team look pretty stally with the Gyarados, Wo-Chien, Glimmora, but they do have some offense on their side with Chi-Yu, Iron Bundle, and Goldengo. I'm going to be leading the Dragapult Gyarados here. I don't really care too much if the Gyarados gets poisoned, and I can sub up on Mortal Spins without the sub breaking, and I can also Terra Steel if I want to. I also brought Scizor here since I think it has a good matchup into like Wo-Chien. The Assault Vest could be useful into their special attackers, and I'm also a Steel type, so I can come in on the Toxic Debris and not have to worry about getting poisoned. My last slot is going to be Chien-Pao though. Chien-Pao lets me accelerate the battle by dropping defense and letting my attackers hit a lot harder. I don't think Flutter Mane would be bad here though, because like I said, Goldengo is one of the things I kind of struggle with, so Shadow Ball would be nice into that, and I could have also brought Amoonguss here to absorb the Toxic Spikes and maybe to Puff or something, but Amoonguss isn't really a big fan of facing those last three Pokemon, so Amoonguss is going to stay at home. My opponent's going to be leading the Gyarados and the Glimmora here. So we have a little Gyarados mirror, but their Gyarados' Intimidate goes off first. They might outspeed me, maybe it's a tie, but either way I don't really care about the Gyarados speed interaction. This turn I'm going to go for a sub here. I think it'll be good if they try to like Thunder Wave or Mortal Spin me or any defensive play they try to go for. I think the sub will work out. And then I'll just try to Thunder Wave the Gyarados most likely. They could taunt my Gyarados, but I think the Gyarados is going to be annoying since I'm going to be terastallizing on the Dragapult here, since I also want the option to be able to switch out and switch back in, like after the Toxic Debris are set up. So yeah, I'm going to commit the Terra here, but I think the Gyarados is going to have an easier time like dealing with the substitute since I am getting rid of my resistance to water. So they can hit me for normal effectiveness and potentially break my sub, and Glimmora should be going down pretty soon anyways. So no Terras from their side, no Protects either. We are going to get this substitute up. And Glimmora is going to go for a Power Gem into our Gyarados. And they're going to get the one-hit KO with a crit, which is pretty unlucky. I'm pretty sure the crit mattered because I'm guessing they're going to be AV on this set, not like Specs or anything, and Gyarados is going to Thunder Wave into our substitute, so at least we got that part right. I probably should have switched into Scizor instead of leaving the Gyarados out, since the substitute and Terra Steel covers for like anything that they want to go for on turn 1. And a Scizor is going to be a lot safer than the Gyarados out there. But next, I'm going to not send in Scizor, I'm going to send in Chien-Pao, because I didn't want my Sash to like be broken on the Toxic Spikes after I set up the Toxic Debris, so I thought I'd bring it in now. Not only that, but I can drop the defense of the Glimmora, who I'm about to Terra Blast, and I can also hit the Gyarados neutrally with an Ice Spinner. I could see them going for a switch on the Gyarados to like reset the Intimidate drop, maybe bring in someone else, but if you are switching, that means you're not attacking my sub, so that's still going to be up the following turn. Like, I guess you could leave the sub, but then I'm just going to keep attacking you, and I mean, I'll eventually faint a Life Orb, but who's going down first, me or you? Dragapult is going to get its Terra Blast off. I've honestly never seen a Terra Steel Terra Blast, but here it is. Boom. And that was for Gyarados. We get the one-hit KO on their Glamora. Of course, we are setting up the Toxic Debris and the Toxic Spikes on my side, but Scizor in the back doesn't really care. Chien-Pao's going to be able to Ice Spinner their Gyarados. For less than half though, it's honestly less than I thought. Waterfall into the Dragapult is not resisted anymore, and they're going to be able to break the sub. Makes sense though, because I am also reducing my own Dragapult's defense with the Sword of Ruin. But at least we pick up a KO. It's 3-3 again, though I did lose my sub. My opponent's going to be sending in the Wo-Chien next, so they're going to be dropping my attack, but also dropping their own. I'm a bit scared of the Leech Seed, potentially. Foul plays could hurt if they have that, but I'm just going to sub up again. If they decide to attack that slot, I might Phantom Force the next turn, depending on what they do. I could also switch if I really wanted to, like maybe they get a Leech Seed off. But yeah, Chien-Pao can probably just keep spamming Ice Spinner into the Gyarados. I don't really see why not. And with the sub up, the Dragapult's not really threatened by the Wo-Chien, so I feel like I can kind of ignore that slot for now. So we're gonna get the sub up again. We're gonna just keep spinning, just keep spinning. But they do have a Citrus Berry on the Gyarados, makes sense, it's a bulkier spread. And they also have Iron Head, so it's gonna deal not that much damage into Chien-Pao, honestly. But they do go for the side Pollen Puff to heal the Gyarados all the way back up, so now I'm going to be targeting the Wo-Chien. I don't want them to heal up the Gyarados infinitely. I'm going to Ice Spinner into that slot and also go for a Dragon Darts. If they do go for a Protect, at least the smart targeting of Dragon Darts will mean both of them will hit the Gyarados, which should do pretty good damage. I'm also not too worried about another Iron Head from their Gyarados because it didn't do half to the Chien-Pao, so I can definitely take another. I could potentially switch here to Scizor, but then I am losing out on the Sword of Ruin ability, so my Dragapult's going to do a little bit less damage. Here's the Protect from Wo-Chien. That means my Ice Spinner's not going to be doing anything, but let's see how much these Dragon Darts do. Pew. Pew. Yeah, that's pretty good damage. I think one more Dragon Darts should be enough. Maybe it might survive on a little bit, we'll see. And does the Gyarados break my sub? Nope, they go for another Iron Head into the Chien-Pao, leaving it with 42 HP. They are reducing their own attack with that Tablets of Ruin, so makes sense. I don't think they can live another dart, so I'm gonna go for a Dragon Darts again, but I'm actually not gonna attack with Chien-Pao this turn. I think they could go for a Terra here, like a Terra Steel Gyarados, maybe a Terra Poison Wo-Chien, live the hit and KO my Chien-Pao. I think the ability is gonna be pretty useful in dealing damage this battle, so I'm gonna try to keep it around as long as possible. So I'm just gonna go for a Protect this turn instead of attacking. Alright, so we're gonna Protect. They're not gonna Protect, but this Dragon Darts is enough to finish off the Gyarados. The other dart's gonna hit the Wo-Chien. Chien tried to Pollen Puff, but offensively into my Chien-Pao, so I'm kind of glad I protected, but I guess I could have just Ice Spinnered this turn to KO their Chien, and I probably would have just won the game right there. But you know, I was playing around with Terra, so I don't hate that play. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but I only realized this while recording, my Dragapult's not behind its sub anymore, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's visual or if it's actually a glitch with like Dragon Darts or something like that. But yeah, just something to point out. This turn I decided to target the Chien because honestly I was like, oh, Terra Scizor is gonna deal with the Chi-Yu, but I've already used my Terra, so that doesn't really make much sense. But yeah, I just doubled into the Chien this turn. I mean, if they try to protect, the darts are gonna get redirected, which is gonna do a lot of damage, but I thought this was my best play, especially since they haven't used their Terra yet. I didn't want to like Sacred Sword the Chi-Yu, who could potentially Terra into a Ghost type. And they are going to finally use their Terra. I think they could have used it a long time ago, like a Terra Steel Gyarados probably would have been fine, so I could Sacred Sword it. And it's going to be a Terra Poison on the Chien. So this Ice Spinner is not going to be super effective, but they're just going to protect the Chi-Yu this turn, so let's go. Both these darts are going to hit the Chien. And yeah, that's definitely like Ice Spinner range. So after that Ice Spinner KOing the Chien, we basically guarantee win the game from here. Next turn I'm going to end up going for a Dragon Darts and a Protect for some reason instead of just attacking, but yeah, we're going to clean them up with the Dragon Darts anyways. So it looks like their play was to not Protect, I guess, so the Chien doesn't just go down to that combo. But that's a pretty difficult call for them to make. So that turn 1 crit was unfortunate, but it only mattered if they were AV, even though I think they were, so maybe I should have just switched to Scizor to be a little bit safer. So Scizor didn't get to show up this battle, but could have done some work, could have protected Gyarados, but GG's to my opponent. This battle was just a Dragapult highlight reel, honestly. It sat on the field behind its sub, or in front of its sub at the end, but yeah, it just did so much damage into my opponent's team, and they couldn't even hit it once. My next opponent has Chi-Yu, Flutter Mane, Iron Bundle, Arcanine, Rotom Wash, and Annihilate. So versus my opponents, they have a lot of special attackers, so I want to be able to deal with those. If it's like Chi-Yu, Flutter Mane, Iron Bundle in the lead, I think Scizor and Flutter Mane can just deal with those guys. Of course, the Scizor doesn't really want to deal with Arcanine, but versus Chi-Yu, I think a Terra Water is pretty valuable anyways, so I'll probably bring that and plan to Terra it. If it is Iron Bundle, I don't really care about Freeze Dry because I think Iron Bundle would be in the lead, and then I can just KO it with like a Faint Dazzling Gleam, something like that. In the back, I like Chien-Pao and Dragapult to deal damage. Gyarados doesn't seem that great here since it could proc Defiant. It also doesn't like facing Iron Bundle or Rotom. And if I bring in Amoonguss, I'd probably have to Terra since there's so many fire types on their side. And I'm already planning on Terraing the Scizor, so Amoonguss is also going to stay at home. Once again. So my opponent's going to be leading the Arcanine and the Rotom, so not quite sure what these two are going to do. They both could carry Will-O-Wisp. Arcanine definitely has Flare Blitz most likely, but I don't really have switch-ins that really want to take the Flare Blitz. I'm going to go for the Terra Water still though. I think if I just take out the Rotom so I don't have to deal with super effective moves, it should be good into the rest of their team. So I'm just going to Terra Scizor and then go for like a Feint and then a Moonblast into the Rotom, and just make sure that slot goes down. I'm going to hope that they Flare Blitz my Scizor slot and not Flutter Mane, because Flutter Mane would be going down to a Flare Blitz, but Terra Water Scizor could definitely eat that up. Yeah, I also don't think Iron Bundle's gonna be coming since it's not in the lead. Like, maybe you have it in the back for like late game speed control, but I don't think it's gonna be here. So we're gonna commit the Terra right away. Terra Water Scizor. And Scizor is now blue, just like the rest of the team members. Let's go. So they didn't go for a Protect, but this Feint is still gonna at least make sure we get this KO. And yep, there goes Rotom. But what does the Arcanine go for? It's a Flare Blitz. And it's into the Flutter Mane, so... oof. Flutter Mane's gonna go down, so we lose our beautiful Specs Flutter Mane, but I think we can win with the rest of the Pokemon. I'm gonna be sending in Dragapult next. Because maybe I can sub in front of the Arcanine if they try to Wisp me. We'll see what they send in next. And they're going to be sending in Flutter Mane, which is kind of crazy to me because there's a Scizor right there. So, yeah. I'm gonna Bullet Punch the Flutter Mane. It takes me a little bit of time to figure out that I can. I'm just like so astounded that they sent out Flutter Mane that I didn't initially think to go for a Bullet Punch. But the thing is, I am at -1, so I think it's a roll to KO. So maybe I could have brought in Chien-Pao here for the Sword of Ruin, but I'm gonna go for the Bullet Punch and then a Dragon Darts as well. Could have also went for like a Phantom Force into the Flutter Mane, but I didn't go for a sub this turn because I thought the Flutter Mane was going to go for like a Terra Steel, but nope, it's just going to Protect here. So Bullet Punch is going to hit the Protect. And Dragon Darts is going to do pretty good damage into the Arcanine, barely missed the KO. And they are going to go for a Will-O-Wisp into my Dragapult, so a sub would have been really good there. Or a Phantom Force too. But yeah, this turn is where everything kind of starts to fall apart. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna Phantom Force the Flutter Mane. They're probably gonna attack with Dazzling Gleam this turn and probably go for a defensive Terra because if you don't Terra defensively, my Bullet Punch is gonna hurt a lot. So I went for a Feint into the Arcanine with Scizor. But they switch out the Arcanine, so Chi's gonna come in, maybe they call the Feint. Maybe they were also scared of a Bullet Punch. And then they're gonna Terra the Flutter Mane into just the Fairy type. So yeah, Bullet Punch into that slot would have been great. I was already gonna Phantom Force that slot anyways, but now that I'm burned and they go for a Terra Fairy, this Phantom Force probably won't KO. Yeah, adios. Dazzling Gleam is gonna miss the Dragapult because we are, I don't know, in the Shadow World. And it's gonna do more than half to Scizor, so this Water Terra is not gonna be that great since another Dazzling Gleam would just finish us off. I could have gone for a Bullet Punch into the Flutter Mane here again, but I was kind of considering like maybe my opponent doesn't know how Phantom Force works. Maybe they'll try to Protect, in which case my Bullet Punch will not go off and I'll waste a turn. Maybe they end up like Dark Pulsing my Scizor to finish me off, which would be bad. But I do have an Assault Vest, so I don't think I should have worried about that. Plus this opponent is like rank 2000, so they should know how Phantom Force works, so I should have just Bullet Punched the Flutter Mane, but instead I don't, so I missed the KO on Flutter Mane. Very silly on my part. And they're just gonna go for a Dazzling Gleam, easily just pick up a double KO. And now it's Chien-Pao versus the world. Alright, and Shiyu goes for Snarl. That is interesting information. Like, we definitely could have taken that on Scizor. Dragapult probably would have taken that as well. Here's Chien-Pao. So yeah, they have 3 left, I only have 1. I at least have my Focus Sash though, so I can take 2 hits. So it's not a guaranteed loss just yet. I'm gonna keep clicking moves here. I know they have Protect on Flutter Mane, but I'm just gonna attack that slot anyways because I hope that the Chi is just gonna miss a Snarl again, or I don't know what move it's gonna go for, but Dazzling Gleam is 100% accurate. So I'm gonna attack that slot, but they're gonna switch it. So I know Arcanine's coming in, it's at 1 HP, so I'm gonna finish it off. It is gonna drop my attack, but I don't think it's gonna matter. I can one-hit all of my opponent's remaining Pokemon if I'm able to get the attack off. And they miss a Heat Wave on Chi-Yu. So all of a sudden, we're back in the game. Like, this is definitely winnable after that miss. Like, that is what I needed. So after watching some tournaments, I'm like 99% sure the play is always to protect here. Potentially bait out a protect from their side, and then I can go from there. And we get the protect from the Flutter Mane. So next turn, I could go for like an Ice Spinner into that slot. I'm more likely to land a hit, but it is possible to get a double. It's also possible that they're max speed and then we'll speed tie, they could outspeed me, or they could win the tie. But yeah, I need to KO the Flutter Mane here, and I also need to dodge a Heat Wave burn. And we get the Ice Spinner off. This is going to KO the Flutter Mane, no protect from their side. So as long as the Heat Wave does not burn us, we can win the game. Heat Wave does hit this time though. 1 HP. Focus Sash. Does it burn? No, and we're gonna clutch this up with Chien-Pao in a 3v1. Chien-Pao is the GOAT. So now I can just go for the Sacred Sword and I'm gonna win this battle. The plays in the middle of the game were definitely questionable. I did play to my outs at the end though, so I was able to eventually win. I definitely should have just went for the bullet punches anyways. Terra Fairy is like the most common Terra on Flutter Mane. The Water Terra ended up not being too useful, but I probably at least deterred the Flare Blitz on the Arcanine. Not my best performance, but what an ending to that battle. That was very clutch. Good job, Chien-Pao. I love Chien-Pao and fully accurate moves. So my next opponent finally has Talonflame, so it's the bird we've been looking for. I'm ready to feint that thing and get rid of their Tailwind. And they also have Garchomp, Cerulege, Chien-Pao, Iron Thorns, and Cryogonal. So they have some very interesting mons on their side. I honestly had to look up Cryogonal stats because I honestly don't really know what this thing does. But it does have very little physical defense, so I guess Scizor could deal with it. Iron Thorns, I'm guessing, is probably loaded dice with like Pin Missile, Rock Blast. That's probably how I would run it at least. So my Focus Sash Chien-Pao might be in a little bit of danger here. I'm going to be leading the Scizor and Flutter Mane in the lead because I'm fairly certain they're going to lead the Talonflame. Probably just spam Earthquake with the Garchomp. And I'm just going to snipe that bird. And then I think I'm going to go Gyarados and Chien-Pao in the back to clean up my opponents. Dragapult isn't the worst here, but Earthquake spam and Rock Blast would ruin my sub, and Pult can't really hit the Iron Thorns, who's a big question mark right now, so not gonna lie, I definitely thought about using my own Iron Thorns, and I still might because I think it looks really cool, and Loaded Dice, Rock Blast, and Pin Missile sound pretty fun too. I don't think I'm gonna bring Amoonguss here though, but I could have potentially brought it if I decided to use the Terra on it. But they do have like Bitter Blade and like Ice Spinner. I guess Cryogonal can use ice moves too. Talonflame's threatening for Amoonguss. But yeah, and if they're using spread moves, then the Rage Powder really won't have too much of an effect. So my opponent is going to be leading the Talonflame and Garchomp. I'm really not too surprised about their lead. So yeah, I'm just going to go for the feint into the Talonflame, and I'm also going to Power Gem. I was trying to figure out if Shadow Ball would get the KO, but this battle is actually right after one of my Dondozo games, so the calculator I was using was factoring in Commander, which was confusing me. I was like, why is the Power Gem only doing like 100%? So I was like, I thought I needed the Power Gem to get the KO. Shadow Ball was not telling me it would pick up the KO. But it turns out Shadow Ball and Feint is a very favorable roll, I think, to KO like a bulky max speed Talonflame, which is good enough for me. though Power Gem is probably slightly better into their team and like against everything except for the Iron Thorns. I'm not too scared of the Earthquake here because I used it plenty last regulation, and I know they're not going to get the KO unless they have like some sort of damage boost. They're going to go for the Terra on Garchomp, and there's their damage boost, Terra Ground. So if they do Earthquake, it's definitely going to KO my Flutter Mane. Scizor's going to faint, and we're going to snipe that bird. One bird, 4 stones, and a feint. But of course, this Earthquake is gonna absolutely destroy my Flutter Mane. But we're able to stop them from getting the Tailwind up, and versus the rest of their team, I should be outspeeding most of, if not all of them. So I'm going to be sending in Chien-Pao next. Chien-Pao can threaten this Garchomp, probably force a Protect on that slot, and then maybe I can do something else with Scizor. My opponent's going to be sending in Future Tyranitar, the Iron Thorns. So I'm just going to switch Scizor out for Gyarados here. It's a little bit risky when, you know, they have the potential Rock Blast in front of me, but I think they're going to be protecting the Garchomp and maybe Rock Blasting the Chien-Pao here. So I'm going to protect Chien-Pao this turn as I switch Scizor out for Gyarados. I want to preserve my ability to do extra damage and not attack just yet since I'm switching this turn. If they happen to Rock Slide the Gyarados, this would be pretty bad, but at least I get the Intimidate off as well. So in comes Gyarados. We're dropping their attacks with this Intimidate. Oh man, Iron Thorns actually looks so cool. We're going to be protecting with the Chien-Pao. And show me Protect from Garchomp. Nope, it's Protect from Iron Thorns, which, you know, that Protect is good for me. They're going for Earthquake, which is perfect, because Gyarados is flying. We're not taking any damage this turn. We just got a pretty free switch here. They protected a different slot than I was expecting, but this turn worked out really well for me. So now I'm going to attack into the Iron Thorns. I'm pretty sure they're going to be switching out the Garchomp here, or going for a Protect. And then I'm going to go for a Sacred Sword and Waterfall. Looks like they are going to be switching out. And it's into Scarlet, so that's their last slot. Sacred Sword into the Iron Thorns does less than I thought it would. But Waterfall does a ton and just picks up the KO, so good job Gyarados. Luckily we outsped their Iron Thorns. I think you need a good amount of investment to actually outspeed my Gyarados, but if I was running Iron Thorns I'd probably bring it up to 104 speed, especially if I'm running it on a Tailwind team. And they're going to be sending in the Garchomp again. So now I'm going to protect Chien-Pao again. I want to potentially bait out a Protect from their side, and then I'll just Waterfall into the Scarlet since I don't really have consistent damage into that slot with the Chien-Pao. Garchomp is going to go for a Rock Slide this turn, so Gyarados is not going to like this that much, but ooh, yeah, we're dropped down to 64 HP. They just go for a taunt with the Scarlet though. So Gyarados at least gets to live and get this Waterfall off. As long as we don't flinch, let's go. And we almost pick up an Oko on their Scarlet. So the taunt Scarlet is very interesting. Looks like it would have been pretty bad if I brought Amoonguss, I guess. This turn I still haven't used my Terra yet, so that's still an option. I thought about going for the Terra Steel so I can, I guess, take Rock Slide better potentially, but I don't want to give them an option to like Bitter Blade and heal back up, so instead I decided to Terra Ghost on Chien-Pao, so if they go for a Rock Slide I can take that a lot better. And I'm going to Ice Spinner the Gyarados and then just Waterfall the Scarlet. But they've already used their Terra. My Chien-Pao's going to outspeed the Garchomp and should get the Oko with Ice Spinner unless they somehow like get some Protect reads, so this game should be pretty sealed up here. I'm pretty happy with how I played the battle. The Shadow Ball Power Gem thing really didn't matter since Flutter Mane just fainted first turn anyways, but whatever. I think denying the Tailwind really helped me out, or else my Chien-Pao is not going to be as threatening to the Garchomp since I would be outsped. The Cerulege and potentially even the Iron Thorns would all be pretty threatening against my team depending on how they're trained, so I think it was honestly pretty worth it. I'm pretty happy with how I'm using Chien-Pao's ability, like protecting and attacking with Gyarados was just working out for me, so I'm happy about that. I honestly really didn't need my Terra this battle. I think Terra Steel Gyarados, it's gonna take Rock Slide better, but if Cerulege gets a Bitter Blade off, I could be in some trouble. But GG's to my opponent. I wish we could have seen more of the Iron Thorns, but nope, not today. My next opponent has Dondozo, Tatsugiri, Chi-Yu, Ting-Lu, Flutter Mane, and Amoonguss. So unfortunately, we are facing a Dondozo team. Of course, my team does have Pokemon who have access to moves that will counter Dondozo, like Haze on Chien-Pao, Clear Smog on Amoonguss, but we do have the Spore here, and we also have Intimidate on Gyarados to lower their attack. I think I'll have a good matchup into the rest of their team with Scizor and Chien-Pao in the lead. And in the back, I'll just bring the Gyarados and Amoonguss to help me deal with Dondozo. Gyarados can cycle the Intimidates that way, which is pretty nice, and if they're going for Earthquakes, I can switch it in, and I'm Flying type, so I can ignore that. Amoonguss is Amoonguss, so if I'm able to Spore the Dondozo, I could also use Amoonguss to like Pollen Puff my partners, and then maybe heal up, and just continue to reduce Dozo's attack, maybe just use that as an opportunity to get all set up into a position. But yeah, I didn't bring Flutter Mane to battle because the Ting-Lu's kind of scary. Amoonguss is not something I really want to face as well, and Dragapult's substitute like strategy probably isn't going to be too great into Dondozo. And my opponent's going to be leading the Dondozo and Amoonguss here, so they are kind of threatening like a switch to Tatsugiri, which would set up the Dondozo. But I feel like you can't like too easily just switch into Tatsugiri on turn 1 because I do have my Focus Sash still, so let's say you do switch into it and I had Haze, like you would bring me down to my Sash, I would still outspeed the Dondozo the next turn, I could just use Haze and you know, you kind of lose your boost, I can maybe get set up from there. I might lose Chien-Pao for it, but that's okay. So yeah, I don't think they're going to go for the switch on turn 1, so I'm going to double the Amoonguss slot. I'm going to be U-turning onto that with Scizor, that way I'm going to jump back out, and if they happen to Spore that slot, then I'm going to bring Amoonguss in, or I could bring Gyarados in too if I'm able to KO the Amoonguss. But they're going to switch on turn 1, so yeah, everything is going to miss if this is Tatsugiri, and it is. But yeah, I thought I had a read into my opponent, but I guess they probably know the matchup. Maybe they just have a feeling that I'm not going to be Haze on Chien-Pao. But this is a pretty bad turn for me. And we also don't get any of our Dondozo counters out onto the field. They're going for an Earthquake, and at +2 this is going to do a ton. Yeah. So I'm assuming they're going to be going for another Earthquake here, so I'm going to be switching to Gyarados. Gyarados can drop their attack, it's not going to be hit by the Earthquake. I kept it in the back just so I could switch it in like this, because if it's already out and they bring Dondozo in, then I'll have to take a couple more turns to actually like get the Intimidate drop, so that's why I had Gyarados in the back. And with Chien-Pao, I'm just going to protect this turn. If they Earthquake, I won't take any damage this turn. So in comes Gyarados. But they have a clear amulet on their Dondozo, so they're going to be able to ignore Intimidate drops. That doesn't make you immune to stuff like Haze or Clear Smog though, but they are going to go for another Earthquake here. So now I'm going to go for a Taunt into the Dondozo and then switch in Amoonguss. They might not Earthquake this time since Gyarados is out, but by taunting I'll make sure that they can't like sub or protect the following turn or something to block like Spore. But they are going to switch over to the Order Up this turn, hit my Amoonguss for a good amount of damage. I think we can take another even though they're boosting their attack, but we are luckily able to get this taunt off onto their Dondozo. So now I'm going to try to spore the Dondozo. Of course, they could be Terra Grass, that is an option, but I kind of need to hope that they're Terra Steel at this point, I think. I'm going to be switching Gyarados for Scizor here. I kind of just wanted Gyarados to not really take too much damage, but I need them to be Terra Steel to like win this. I would probably want Scizor around just so I could go for close combats into the Dondozo, so maybe I should have just left Gyarados in. And they are going to go for Terra this turn. If it's Terra Flying, they can just Terra Blast my Amoonguss and get the KO. If it's Terra Grass, they're going to be immune to the Spore, and it is the Terra Grass, so unfortunately, this Spore's not doing anything either. Order Up brings Amoonguss down to 16, we do survive, and we eat our berry, but we're not going to be taking another Order Up. And yeah, my opponent got all the tools they need to, I guess, beat my team. I can't intimidate them, I can't spore them. So I'm a little bit screwed at this point, so I guess I'll just bring in Gyarados and try to paralyze my opponent, and then maybe I can try to win from there. And then I'll just go for a U-turn with Scizor, though I think I'm probably going to faint this turn. But either way, I'll get something else in on that Scizor slot. Alright, they do go for the Earthquake to finish off the Scizor here. But since Gyarados is still healthy, I can try to go for a Thunder Wave and then maybe Paraflinch onto the Dondozo. I'm going to bring in Chien-Pao here because it is a grass type now, so Ice Spinner is going to do a lot of damage. I'm going to protect Chien-Pao this turn and Thunder Wave with the Gyarados. And maybe instead of going for the Paraflinches, I'll just go for full Paralysis. And then just go for a Helping Hand Ice Spinner instead to maximize damage. Yeah, these Order Ups, they call the Protect, I guess, and Order Up into the Gyarados. Maybe they're trying to make sure I'm not able to flinch them too much. Yeah, they shake off the taunt here, but they're already paralyzed. I can just go for Helping Hand Ice Spinners into that slot. And I think that's probably my best chance, though maybe I should have just Waterfalled instead for the flinch chance. Yeah, if there's a will, there's a wave. I still could potentially win this if I get lucky. I could also get a crit. But I kind of need Ice Spinner to get some damage into Dondozo because this thing is so healthy. Like, I haven't done any damage yet. They're not going to be paralyzed, they're going to just finish off the Chien-Pao, and I don't think there's any way I can win from here. Like, I only have Amoonguss and Gyarados left, and they still have, like, their entire team. Amoonguss and Gyarados both really don't do that much damage. But, you know, there's a chance that I just flinch the Dondozo here, maybe get, like, a crit Pollen Puff through it, but this turn I'm going to try to Pollen Puff Gyarados and hope that they just get paralyzed or flinch. And unfortunately we don't get it. They're going to finish off the Gyarados here, and I don't think there's any chance Amoonguss is going to beat all four of my opponents. So we got dominated by Dondozo this time. I thought I was onto something with that turn 1, but they bred me harder. I thought they were going to be a lot weaker since the Ruin Pokemon are so strong, and I thought I wouldn't be seeing them as often, but it looks like it's still something I need to prepare for. And once again we are facing Dondozo. This time it's with Lumineon, Chi-Yu, Screamtail, and Chien-Pao. And the Tatsugiri is also the defense boosting one, so I don't think they're going to have Order Up on this set. It's a little bit rough to run into a Dondozo right after getting Don dominated last game, but you know, it's a rematch. Let's try and see if we can win this time. My opponent's Lumineon is a little confusing to me. I had to look up what that thing does. And I think the strategy is probably like Storm Drain plus Surf from the Tatsugiri to boost the Lumineon's damage, but I'm not quite sure. It doesn't have the best stats anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. I brought Scizor last time to deal with the special attackers. I don't think it's going to be that great in this matchup, and it's not too good into Dondozo, so instead I'm going to bring Flutter Mane here. Flutter Mane's fast and strong, it can outspeed the Dondozo and hit pretty hard even if Dondozo gets its boost up. And I'm also going to bring the Gyarados and Amoonguss just like last time, but this time I'm going to try leading them and then put the Flutter Mane and Chien-Pao in the back. I think Terra Water Amoonguss might be pretty good this battle, so I think I'll lead with it, maybe immediately Terra, and then that way I have the option to bring in Amoonguss versus the Chi-Yu without having to worry. But yeah, I did want to get that Terra in early just in case I wanted to switch out and switch back in, and I didn't think it'd be too bad to just go for the Water Terra this battle. My opponent's going to be leading the Dondozo and the Lumineon. Dondozo that is not Tatsugiri, please don't try to eat it. We're going to intimidate them, and luckily it goes through this time. It's not a clear amulet, so we can at least potentially cycle the Gyarados to drop Dondozo's attack. This turn I'm going to go for a Thunder Wave into Lumineon. Gyarados isn't too great with its other moves into these two, and then I'll try to Spore the Dondozo, though I kind of expect them to just protect on turn 1. I'm also going to Terra Water right away. I thought the Water Terra is going to be good into the rest of their team, and maybe the Lumineon has an Ice type move that they might go for into the Amoonguss. I mean, Lumineon probably won't hurt that bad, but I'd rather the Amoonguss stay a little bit healthier in this matchup since Dondozo is kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. But in hindsight, Terra Water might not be the best idea, because if it is Terra Grass Dondozo, some of them will have Terra Blast for Palafin, so that could allow them to just KO my Amoonguss. But they're just going to protect and Tailwind this turn. And the Tailwind initially confused me because they're going to be outspeeding the Gyarados and the Amoonguss anyways, but that does allow the Dondozo to outspeed my Chien-Pao and Flutter Mane in the back, which could be a little bit tough for me. So this turn I'm going to taunt and then Spore the Dondozo. It would be bad if they got a sub up, but yeah, the Gyarados and Amoonguss can't really do too much otherwise. Offensively, they're not very threatening, so I guess this is the best I can really go for. Waterfall and Pollen Puff aren't going to be doing too much damage. This Dondozo could go for a Terra here. If it's Terra Flying, they can't hit the Amoonguss too hard because I am Terra Water, but if it is for Terra Grass, that is going to be threatening because they'll be immune to the Spore. They're going to send in the Tatsugiri too and get set up. I'm not too surprised about that. I don't think Lumineon can do too much into a Gyarados and Amoonguss either. And they are going to go for the Terra this turn. And it is the Terra Grass Dondozo. The Terra Grass is a bit annoying to deal with because my Gyarados only has water moves. Maybe if I had Terra Flying or if I had Arcanine instead. But they're just going to go for a Rock Slide, and that's going to do super effective damage to my team and flinch my Gyarados. But either way, we're not really doing too much with the Taunt and Spore. Now I'm going to try to go for a Thunder Wave into the Dondozo. Since I can't put it to sleep, I might as well paralyze it and maybe give myself a chance that way. It also dropped the Dondozo, so its speed is not going to be faster than my attackers in the back while under Tailwind, though the Tailwind's probably going to be expiring soon anyways. We go for a Rock Slide here, and it's not enough to KO because they are at +1 now. It's +2, -1. But yeah, I just Pollen Puff my Gyarados back up because I know it wasn't going to KO. And since I'm healing more than they're dealing, I'm not too worried. I guess the Amoonguss is taking damage and I'd have to switch out to heal that up. But I'll be switching out the Amoonguss soon, just not quite yet. So there's still one turn of Tailwind left, so I'm going to keep the Amoonguss in for one more turn because I don't want to bring in my attackers just yet because it's not as safe as it could be. I'm going to taunt the Dondozo this turn so they can't go for a rest or anything like that. And then I'll just keep side puffing the Gyarados to keep it healthy. The offensive Pollen Puffs aren't going to do too much damage, and I'd rather have the healing. Luckily they get full paired this turn, so I don't have to worry about an attack. So we're able to get this taunt off and the Pollen Puff. I don't know how useful these taunts are though, because most of the time the Dondozos are just attacking into me anyways. It's not like the Dondozo will need the leftovers recovery when it's at full HP. This turn I'm going to try to bring in the Chien-Pao. I have a Focus Sash so I can at least take a hit on that slot, but I'm also going to Waterfall the Dondozo, and that way there's only a 60% chance this turn that they actually get their attack off, which is probably my best odds. And since they're paralyzed, my Gyarados is going to outspeed as well, and we get the flinch. So we're able to bring in the Chien-Pao really safely. I preserve my Sash, and now I can try to go for the Helping Hand Ice Spinners. 2 of these should KO the Dondozo since last time it did about a little over 50, and I have a tiny bit of chip already. And since I have my Focus Sash, my Chien-Pao will be able to get 2 Ice Spinners off. The Rock Slides from their Dondozo was not enough to KO the Gyarados, like even with a crit. So Helping Hand and then the Ice Spinner does enough damage into the Dondozo that one more Helping Handed Ice Spinner should finish it off. Of course that will allow the Tatsugiri to pop out, but ooh, they got a weakness policy. So this Rock Slide is going to hurt a lot more, and unfortunately Gyarados is going down, because they do get a crit. So I'm pretty sure they needed that crit to KO the Gyarados there, which is a little bit unlucky. And I'm going to bring in the Flutter Mane here because I don't think another Ice Spinner on its own is going to KO the Dondozo, and so I was going to attack with the Flutter Mane since it will outspeed the Dondozo, and Amoonguss won't, but I probably should have brought Amoonguss in instead. I could offensively Pollen Puff the Dondozo and then just bring it into range of Ice Spinner. Then the next turn I could go for an Ice Spinner and then Spore, and then I'll be able to catch the Tatsugiri as it's popping out of the mouth, and then I'd be in a really strong position. Instead I brought in Flutter Mane, and I locked in Moonblast because I think that'd be best into the rest of my opponent's Mons. And then I went for an Ice Spinner as well with the Chien-Pao, and this should KO the Dondozo, but Tatsugiri's going to hit the field pretty safely. So Chien-Pao spins, and yep, it's not enough damage, but Pollen Puff would probably do enough to bring it down, so yeah, Amoonguss would have been good there, or an offensive Pollen Puff a little earlier in the battle instead of that Spore, but I was probably going to Spore there on the first try anyways at least. And they're going to send in the Lumineon back in. So the paralyzed Lumineon is back. I'm just going to Moonblast the Tatsugiri and then switch to Amoonguss. The Amoonguss can take whatever hits that these two are going to go for, and Chien-Pao might be useful versus their last Pokemon since Chien-Pao's pretty fast, and I can maybe get a hit in. But the Tatsugiri protects this turn, so we know it's not Scarf, so it could be Sash. And fortunately the Lumineon is not able to move this turn because of the paralysis. I don't know what it's going to go for, but it doesn't have any special attack boost from Storm Drain, so it probably won't hit too hard into these two. I'm going to keep trying to Moonblast with the Flutter Mane into the Tatsugiri, and then I'll also offensively Pollen Puff this turn just to finish it off since I expect it to be Sash on that set. I think I can still ignore the Lumineon a little bit, and the Tatsugiri just protected, so I think I'll just target the Tatsugiri slot. And so Moonblast does bring the Tatsugiri down to its Sash, so I am glad that I went for the offensive Pollen Puff here. And they go for a Draco. Luckily, Amoonguss is able to dodge the Draco Meteor, and also the Lumineon is paralyzed again, so that guy is not able to move very much this battle. This Pollen Puff is going to finish off the Tatsugiri. Tatsugiri got no damage off, which is great, because Amoonguss is a little healthier into their last Pokemon. And it's going to be the Chi-Yu. Now I'm going to finish off the Lumineon that's been sitting around. I'm just going to go for a Moonblast into that slot. I don't think the Chi-Yu threatens me too much since I can bring in the Chien-Pao versus that slot. So let's just put the Lumineon out of its misery. But the Lumineon survives on 1 HP and it has a Citrus Berry to heal itself back up. And it takes its chance to go for a Tailwind, so I'm in a little bit of trouble here because it got the Tailwind back up. Chi-Yu is now faster than my Flutter Mane and my Chien-Pao. This could be a little bit scary. But they shouldn't have enough damage to knock out Flutter Mane and Amoonguss unless they go single target maybe. But yeah, that Draco Meteor dodge really helps us out since the Amoonguss is a lot healthier than it should be. And I can just finish off the Lumineon before they're able to move here, and then I can try to Spore the Chi-Yu again. I don't think they'll ever knock out my Amoonguss from nearly full, and looks like the Lumineon failed to protect. This Heat Wave is definitely not taking out Amoonguss, so this Spore is going to sleep the Chi-Yu, and then I can finish it off the next turn. This battle, I started off with basically the same plan as last time, trying to sleep the Dondozo, maybe switch around the Gyarados to drop its attack, but it was another Terra Grass Dondozo, which I have a hard matchup against. We obviously got pretty lucky this battle with the Paralysis versus the Dondozo and the Flinch, but I did play to my outs with that. I did get a little bit sloppy near the end. I definitely should have brought in Amoonguss to Pollen Puff the Dondozo. Even with the Weakness Policy boost, there's no way they can KO the Amoonguss unless they get like a single target crit into that slot. So I'm going to put Clear Smog on Amoonguss to help with the Grass Dondozo matchup. I feel like I'm not clicking Protect too much, though it is definitely useful. I think it's probably better in open team sheets where your opponent can't just target the Rage Powder user. This battle could still be lost if they weren't so unlucky near the end. Like if they got the Tailwind up a little earlier, maybe they get some attacks off with Lumineon, land the Draco Meteor, I could be in a lot more trouble and they'll outspeed my Chien-Pao with the Chi-Yu and just get an attack off. But if I instead brought in the Amoonguss instead of Flutter Mane, I'd be a lot better into the Tatsugiri near the end. I could potentially even switch in Flutter Mane on one of the sleep turns. But yeah, GG's to my opponent, they got a really fishy team over there. So that's going to be the last battle of the video. I hope you enjoyed the battles. I think this team is clicking for me a bit better than the last one. I just enjoy having the flexibility to switch. I feel like I have a clear idea of what I want to go for in the battle, and the bulky Gyarados is just putting in a lot of work. I feel like we got to showcase each Pokemon in this episode, like everyone got their time to shine, so yeah, these guys are probably going to be the gang I'll use in the IC. I do think the Palafin Amoonguss Arcanine core is probably the strongest thing in the format right now, but I don't really like how Palafin looks in the hero form. I like the baby Palafin, but the big one kind of looks like a cursed Poplio evolution. But I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks again for watching. Just like Dragapult, drop a sub if you want more from me, and until next time, bye bye.